Carter Dunn. Looks and feels and sounds like Dash from The Incredibles.
It's true. I get that a lot.
Dude, it's been fun getting to know you, man, over the past year. And dude, thanks for coming on the pod today.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
So, dude, give us a little backstory into like you, where you're from. Let us know kind of like how you got in the DDD space, and yeah, just walk us forward.
Yeah, so I from Seattle, Washington. Moved around a lot in my life. I moved here to Utah a few years ago. My family went on a mission to Atlanta, Georgia, and just everything's kind of worked out. I got into the, I guess, BRD through one of my buddies, Gavin.
Shout out, Gav.
Shout out to Gavin. So it's been fun, man. It's been a ride.
Yeah. Well, and dude, so I don't know why I'm spacing on this, but I forgot you're from Seattle. And how do you feel? So we're looking to expand. We're looking to move new borders, new places, and Seattle's been one that people have been bouncing around a lot. Do you feel like you growing up, would you have felt like, oh, dude, pest control is something I want up there, or like we would have, or is it like, what's kind of walk me through climate, all that stuff? Do you think it'd be a good market?
I think Seattle does have a lot of potential. It rains all the time there, so there's a whole lot of pests popping up all over the place. My family personally never had it, and I never really saw any companies there. So I think the market is pretty wide open. There's not a lot of competition there. So I think there's honestly a lot of good industry there that is for potential.
All right, dude. People in Seattle, prepare. We're coming.
Heck yeah.
So I feel like you have a really unique entrance into door-to-door. I don't feel like most people get to work. I mean, you worked in our basically our call center before going out and selling in the summer. And I think I would have loved that opportunity to kind of like get like a general idea of how everything was running before. Do you feel like that helped you a lot going into the summer? And like, would you attribute that to some of your success, like having worked prior and then going into it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of the biggest things that helped me with that, like being comfortable with like the people in the office, like whenever I needed to call and like, resolve any things when I was out selling. That was good. And that was also nice, like knowing how like the system works. It's like I was in charge of like scheduling, I guess rescheduling, things like that, like dealing with angry customers. So I think it was a good like preparation for me, like knowing what a lot of like the concerns of the customers were prior, like what a lot of like their, main issues they saw with like technicians and things like that. So I think like being in the office, being able to like resolve those concerns over the phone before I went out and sold was actually really helpful, because I was able to, feel more comfortable like what we actually do, what to do in certain situations, things like that.
That's cool. Well, and for me, when I started, I went right out of high school and like jumped in, and I was just so anxious because I didn't know like a lot of the systems, how to work things, and I feel like that would have been a huge advantage. Not like I've done a ton of sales knowledge, but just knowing how a system flows takes a lot of the anxiety out.
Yeah.
I feel like in the beginning of anything, because when I start things, man, I get so like, I'm like, how does this work? I want to know everything. I just feel like that'd be nice to just be like, okay, I'm just going to focus on the human interaction I'm having with this person. So let's talk about that though. Like, do you feel like, hey, this is how I grew this summer interacting with people? Is there anything that you're like, dude, I was so glad I knocked this summer and it taught me this about socializing, communicating, anything like that? Was there anything that you're like, I took this away? Because you did the mission.
Yep.
Like you served an LDS mission right before you went out and sold, and then you also like went out and sold. Is there anything you're like, oh, I learned this a little bit different from selling that I maybe hadn't learned in my mission?
Yeah, I think the main thing that was helpful, like selling, was learning how to have, more business focused conversations, and being able to like connect people really fast in that way. Because like on the mission, you have like a companion with you. You can kind of rely on them a little bit. But being out there on the doors was cool for me, at least, because I was able to, have one-on-one conversations, connect with people fast, because obviously it happens really fast on the doorstep. But I think that was cool. That's taught me a lot, just like in like day-to-day life now. Like right now I'm at college, pursuing a biology major, and so I interact with people every day, and it's like not having like practice with that would have been tough, like going into like college where there's a lot of people, you know, obviously you're busy all the time. But I think sales was a good experience for me, at least, because I was able to just focus on like, okay, I just have to talk to the next person on the door. You know, the more doors I knock, the more interactions I'm going to have. And that was good for selling as well as just like, you know, practicing good social interactions.
I like that too. People, a lot of times, they feel like sales is like is mystic. Like you either have this like weird, like otherworldly ability, but I like that you're like, oh, just if I talk to enough people, I'm going to get some sales.
Yeah.
And I think like what you talked about at the beginning, a system, like just understanding the system, and then also like just knowing your numbers. I think those are two things that can take a lot of anxiety out when you're jumping into sales. Cool. Dude, I'm starting to get why you're such a level-headed guy. So let's talk about one of the biggest blessings in my life, or one of the biggest blessings in my sales career, I should say, was when I went in, I got to meet a lot of cool people. And there's obviously your trainer, and there's obviously like the buddy who brought you out. Was there someone that like, besides those two, that you're like, I learned a lot from this person this summer, and maybe like this is something they taught me that like I wasn't expecting, or this was something I learned from just being in the morning meeting with this guy or this room that like I think could really help people that go out and sell? Yeah,
I shout out to Zach Olson. He kind of took me out my first day, and I sold with him. He was a big impact on like my summer and like the trajectory, because like I went into the summer having some expectations of like, you know, how it would go, a little bit of an idea of like maybe, you know, how I'd perform. But like the first day, Zach, he was a great inspiration to me. I knocked with him all day, and he just showed a lot of great like abilities of, you know, just being normal and natural, being confident on the doorstep, not being too like in the pitch, I guess. He was more focused on like addressing like concerns of the customer. Whereas like prior to that, I was just focused on like getting down the pitch. So I think like the main thing that I would just, you know, say helped me was being able to see from experience, like someone who was more experienced, kind of take the reins and kind of show like normal, natural interactions. It's not scary if you just, you know, go to the next door with a level head and just say, hey, this is the next one. I'm just going to chat with this person real fast. And if it works, it works.
I love that. Well, and one of the things that's like so important is when you're interacting with humans, there's a lot of communication that's nonverbal. And I think a lot of times in sales, people think that you're faking or you're acting. But the thing is, it's tried and tested. There's thousands of kids that go out from this valley every year to go out and sell pest control. They go out, they make a living, they come back, and they do it again. And sometimes they do it for 10, 15 years. And what's so funny to me about that is like sometimes people don't realize that like half of what they're doing is just a numbers game, creating a system, but then also having just a relaxed, normal energy. It's kind of like when you're interacting with anybody, like if you're not yourself and you're trying to reach a little bit too far left or too far right, you're never going to connect with people on the way you need to. And so I think that's huge, of just being like, slow down maybe in the beginning. If you mess up on some words, who cares? Just kind of keep playing through and see what you can figure out.
Yeah.
Is there any like maybe saying or words that like maybe when you were downtrodden one day that like you're like, oh, those couple words picked me up, or like this was something that unlocked something in my head that I was like, okay, like on those down days, on the moments when it is tough, this is what kept me going. This is how, like, that was just something encouraging that I heard. Or
yeah, so just like what like I would kind of say to myself like on those days.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously there's going to be hard days. There's going to be days where everything just kind of flows. So especially on the days where you feel like, you know, you're beating your head into a brick wall, you're not getting anywhere with people. I think it's important to realize that like obviously like there are people out there that do want the product. And so if you're not having success at the start of a day, just realize like even if we get one sale, you know, you're making money. And I found it very helpful to pace myself. So like on the days where, things did get hard, I felt like I wasn't getting anywhere with people. I didn't have like the motivation. I would just, take a little break, take a little mental reset. I think that helped me out a lot as well.
Dude, I feel like just in this beginning conversation, you're very logical, like at your approach to everything. And I feel like a lot of people that are more maybe like heartstrong or could learn a lot from you on that, just being like, hey, like if you think about things logically and if you just take those basic actions, those things are going to come. So, dude, I love it. Well, so let's talk about the crazies. Let's talk about the wild people that kind of come in throughout the door-to-door experience. Do you have a moment that you're like, oh, dude, that guy was like office rocker, or like that was an insane moment that I wasn't like expecting or anticipating? Or
Yeah, there's the first guy that I talked to that was really, a douchebag. I knocked on his door, and he came out. And he had like a no soliciting sign like the front of his driveway that I didn't see. And he was like, did you see the no soliciting sign? And I said, no, sorry, I'm just door-to-door guy, helping out a bunch of the neighbors. And he told me to just get to F off and things like that. So, I mean, there's obviously people like that out there, but more often than not, those people aren't going to show up. I mean, obviously, like you're going to get those kind of people that are just, having a bad day, having a bad moment. And so I think it's important just shrug it off after that, go find a new little piece of neighborhood to go tear up.
Yeah. Dude, your story right there reminds me, dude, when I was starting, I would emotionally carry when people would yell at me or take so much. I'd feel like, oh, dude, like I ruined that person's day. And one time I knocked on this dude's door and he comes out and he's like, dude, I'm getting a divorce now, and I don't da-da-da. And, like, the rest of the day, I felt like I was, like, negatively influencing this guy's marriage. But in reality, like, I knocked on his door. Like so many other people do that. And I feel like learning that skill of being, like, laughing it off, being like, hey, that guy's crazy, or, like, that's a little off. Or not carrying other people's emotions with you is just a good habit. Like, taking things for what they are, learning what you can affect, but not trying to be, how do you put it? Like there's some emotions that people have that you can't control. And I think a lot of times when people start out in door-to-door sales, they get really overly worried about things that are outside their control with other people's emotions. And at the end of the day, you can only doctor what you can doctor within yourself and also like things you can directly influence. But don't get lost in like that dude that lost his mind on you or added a bunch of negative energy to your day. Just figure out the best way to keep rolling, and it's easier said than done as well.
Yeah.
So, well, cool. As far as like, kind of like, what didn't you expect? What was something that you're like, dude, this kind of shocked me about like the job? Was there anything like that, or were you like, oh, dude,
I honestly feel like I had a pretty good idea of what it was going to be like. I think the main thing that shocked me was actually the amount of people that actually said yes. Like, I feel like from my perspective, like if some random dude knocked on my door right now, or I guess prior to like the summer, I don't know what I would have said. I don't know if I would have, listened to his pitch even. But being out there, I remember my very first day, I knocked like my first 3 doors and knocked on this guy's door. He didn't end up buying, but he, was obviously very interested, and, it kind of like boosted my morale that day, being like, okay, like there are actually people out here that do want pest control or you need this product. So I think that actually was one of the things that surprised me the most is the amount of people that actually would, at least listen to your pitch and like have a conversation with you.
That's cool. So I think in sales, a lot of times people can dive too deep. They can believe that sales is like their end-all be-all, and it's like all important, all consuming. And I find when I've slipped into like putting too much emphasis on sales in my life, or like when I was out during the summers, all of a sudden my sales will take a dip just because I'm not in a normal, natural, like happy state. I'm over-focusing on something. What things do you do or have you seen that helps keep you good, regular, focused, or happy that people can implement throughout the summer to keep production up? Is there something that you were like, I did this and this was a staple that like I felt like directly impacted how well I would sell? Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think just like my mindset over the summer, I saw sales as more of a springboard for my life, not so much the end goal. I use sales as like, this is the way that I'm going to be able to pay for, my school, pay for a car, things like that. And so my mindset was less focused on, okay, like I just need to sell, and more like, okay, I need to do this. I just need to perform today and the next day and the next day, so that I can kind of set myself up for success in the future, and not have to worry about it.
Love it. And do you read anything? Do you like watch anything that you're like motivation wise, or is that like that's not really me?
Actually, every day when we would go, or my buddy and I, we would drive out to area together, we'd always listen to, I guess, an audiobook for sales audiobook a different day.
Cool.
And I think that was good, just like learning, from more experienced people who have, been doing it for a lot longer, giving their tips and things like that.
Love it. That's awesome. And kind of like going out in the summer, was there a moment that you're like, this was fun? Like I'm like a Saturday night we went out and did this, or we like cut loose with the team. I think a lot of times people don't understand how important those moments are to keep you level headed throughout the summer. But is there anything that you're like, this was really fun, I enjoyed doing this on a regular basis because it just kept my mood up and made the experience more enjoyable? Yeah.
There was some awesome guys that were in my apartment that I was living with. I think about 6 other guys, and we would just, at the end of every day, we'd usually go get food, do something together. And then on the weekends, we always plan something fun to do together. And so it gave us a little something to look forward to. Obviously, throughout the week, sometimes you get your head down a few different days, but having that support group that you could rely on, fall back on, call if you need, some tips. I think that was very helpful. I think just like having those good, friendships was key for me. Not just, being out selling by myself. I don't know if I could have done that, but having people that were in it with me, working towards the same goals, it was cool.
That's awesome. I'll say this about the Dallas team this year. You guys were dang near like Pazuki filled by the end of that summer, dude.
We were.
BJ's Brewhouse every
BJ's.
night. You guys were out eating. I mean, I was there too. I shouldn't say it like I was, but dude, like we kept that place in business.
We did.
Shout out BJ's Brewhouse. And, but as far as what you're saying on like having the right ties around you, I feel like that's something that gets like, you don't really think of that going into the summer. I think a lot of times people think, oh, I can be successful. Like it's more on me. I think in America, especially, people are really individualistic. Like if it's like everything's up to me, if I get successful, it's because of me. But we really are so much close. Like we are so like closely tied to those around us. It's insane. It affects like in like these micro habits, these micro ways, like the person you drive out with, the people that you interact with in the morning. You take that energy and you only have so much bandwidth. I used to think when I was like starting out that I was like this infinite, like I had like all this energy and like if someone came in I could like, but you kind of got to get good at like limiting your negative interactions to then go out and sell well, and adding in those positive people that build you up and lift you up, because then you can build them up and it just makes the whole process so much easier. So I think that's a huge thing. Who are you interacting with in the morning meeting? Who's in your car group? And then what's the chatter in the group message and all those things, because all those things could be the difference between 2 sales or 10 sales.
It's true.
And that spectrum is a lot. I think a lot of times people think there's like this weird, crazy jump from 2 to 10. Like it's like, oh, I got to do this and this and climb. I honestly think that gap is a lot smaller than people realize. But it's those people that figure out those little things of like interacting with the right people, putting themselves in the right situation, that end up going and being the 10 a day guys. So kind of shifting gears and stuff. Now you're going into your second summer. what's one thing that you're like, I want to do this different this time, or like this is something that I really think is important, like now having wrapped up on a first summer, to bring into the following year?
I think something that I probably missed out on this summer was actually setting solid daily goals for like how many people I wanted to talk to, how many doors I wanted to knock. So I think something that I would change next summer is definitely setting daily like incremental goals that I could like track, and maybe if I miss a goal that day, readjust the next day. I feel like there were definitely days where I did set goals, and on those days I did notice that I did perform better. If I knew like, hey, I just need to try and talk to 20 people in this hour or something like that. That was really helpful for me, just, breaking it up throughout the day. That way it's not overwhelming.
That's cool. I love it. Okay, kind of an interesting question. So let's say your life's on the line, okay? And you got to have somebody go up to help save you, and they have to outsell somebody else. Who in the entire company would you say, I choose them in a 2-day period? Be like, I choose him to like sell enough to save my life against somebody else. Give me your top 3 people that you'd be like, this one first, this one second, this one third.
I take you, Doss. I get you out on the doors.
Dude, that made me feel all fuzzy inside.
No, I would. Honestly,
I would do it.
I probably would have you go out there for me. I'd say, get out there, save me. Cade Orgill, he tore it up. He was a good inspiration. So, Cade. I'm just gonna choose people from the Dallas office that I actually saw.
Cool.
Probably Landon. Landon had some fire about him. He wouldn't quit knocking until 10 some days, I swear. He was always out on the doors.
And I don't think people understand. I think people are like, oh, it's crazy, dude. Someone's going to stay out 2 extra hours tonight. But if you look over the span of a summer, if you do that 16 Saturdays, it starts to add up real quick on the difference in sales that someone can make. And so sometimes you don't need to be, my dad told me once, he was like, when I was playing basketball, it wasn't in summer sales, but he told me, he's like, you're never going to be the fastest kid on your team. You're never going to be the tallest kid on your team. You're never going to be the best shooter. You're never going to be, and he kept telling me all these things I wasn't going to be. And he's like, but you can outlast everybody. And I think a lot of times just outlasting people is going to get you in rooms you don't deserve to be in, and sales you don't deserve to have. So I feel like that's a huge thing that Landon teaches really, really well. So sorry, I cut you off. Third.
Well, it was my third. You, Cade, and Landon.
Okay. Yes. I love it, dude. Maybe we'll have to all 3 of us go out and have a competition now. I'll message him, see if we can't go out here in October in Utah. Well, cool. I guess, is there anything that you're like, dude, I want to ask this or I want to talk about this? Is there anything you're like, I've always wanted to maybe ask this or say this or anything like that, like a statement or?
You put me on the spot here. Honestly, I don't know, man.
And maybe this is a good question. So, as far you got to see and hear from customers that would call in, when you were before your sales season and whatnot. And I think a lot of times sales guys in the moment will tell customers things that they feel like make them happy, but down the road it ends up landing on a cancel, or a customer that doesn't actually go through with what they had signed on the agreement or stuff like that. What's some pitfalls that you're I saw this happen a lot, and this is one I think could have easily been avoided if sales guys did X or sales guys did Y?
I think it's important to just be honest with people. At the end of the day, at the end of a conversation with someone, they're either gonna take the sale or they're not gonna take it. And being dishonest and promising things that we can't do is while they may say yes temporarily, it's just going to cause problems later. So throughout the summer, I really valued, being very straight up with people, like, hey, like, this is what you would get. When we come out, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And, if you want it, take it or leave it. If not, I didn't really let it get to me.
Dude, I freaking love that. No, being honest with people is huge. And I feel like guys quickly can let that go. But I also think even more important than being honest with other people is being honest with yourself. And I feel like a lot of times guys throughout the summer will be like, if I just do this, I'll get a sale and it'll look better and like I'll feel better because of it. But the happiest I've been and the best I've ever sold was when I was most honest with myself. Because at the end of the day, like, if you do mislead somebody and then you go to the next door, like, you're carrying that feeling with you for the rest of the day. Like,
That's true.
And I think it negatively impacts you. And believing that the world is way more abundant than how sometimes we view it, because it is. There's opportunities, there's some stuff. Sometimes turning away a sale that could be half honest or dishonest, you'll be shocked if like you keep going. And a lot of times when I've walked away from those, like, I could have said something to get someone to sign a paper, but then move past those and go find someone that is interested, that does want to like make the commitment the way that they need to be. All of a sudden, all it's a domino effect. I feel like it picks up pretty quick. And so I think, dude, being honest with other people and being honest with yourself, the best salesmen are those two things. But movies, media, family and friends, they always paint it that salesmen aren't. But what I've seen is that the best salesmen are the most honest people. And they're the ones that win time and time again. So
Absolutely.
That's cool, man. Well, dude, I feel like this has been a great pod. Thanks for coming on. Is there anything you want to leave everybody with just before we're bouncing off?
Well, I just say if you're, planning on doing sales or thinking about it, I personally loved it. It was definitely hard work. More so than the actual like aspect of selling, I loved how it built my character. I did something hard. It was hard every single day. I was out in Texas sweating my ass off, but it was a really good experience for me to, prove to myself like, hey, like I can do hard things. And it's, helped me in my day-to-day life today.
Well, that's what life's all about. I think a lot of times when I was 20, 21, and like I didn't think like this, and I'm acting like I'm crazy old. I'm not that old. But like at the end of the day, like growing and learning is like what life's all about. I mean, most people die like around 75, and so like just realizing that like while you are out there collecting the money, you are creating a person is huge, and focusing on that, it keeps you happier. I honestly think it helps you sell faster and growing. So I love that tip. Yeah, dude, that's fire. Dude, Carter, thanks for being on. I'm excited for this one to break the internet, and we'll keep making it happen. Love you, brother.
Love you, bro.